Next thing I'd like to tell you about is live playback. Now, think of live playback as the difference between what you see on the score and how you'd expect it to be played back in the real world. It's kind of a level of artificial intelligence between what's on the manuscript paper and what comes out the speakers. Now, the best way to capture any form of live playback is to record in your notation via a MIDI keyboard. That way you capture any nuances or variations in individual note dynamics. You also are able to capture the feel of how you play in. So for example, if I turn live playback off and play this score back, every note will sound the same until it gets to a dynamic marking. There'll be no variation in hit or strike from drums, for example. There'll be no kind of difference between left and right sticking or up and down bows. It will sound exactly like it's printed on the score. There'll be no variation in timing. It'll be to the letter. So let me play that back for you now. Now if I put live playback on, all those slight nuances that have been captured or added to the performance, and I'll show you about that in a moment, now kick in, and hopefully it will sound a lot more realistic and a lot more human. Everything for me just has a slightly more real, slightly more lively edge to it. Now, we can transform live playback, so I'll select a bar in here. Let's just zoom in a little bit. And if I go to the Transform Live Playback menu, you can see we have two different parameters: velocities, volume, and timings. Now if I choose to, I can leave things unchanged, or I can add a constant velocity. I can make things louder, softer, by a number of MIDI levels, 0 to 1, 2, 7. I can change the way crescendos and diminuendos are affected by live playback. I can also scale the dynamic range from 0 to 127. Over in timings, we have levels of 0 to 256 ticks, MIDI ticks effectively, and that 256 equals 1 quarter note or crotchet. So if I select a single note, looking in the inspector, you can see that this is a live playback velocity of 109, a duration of 568 ticks. If I decide I want to change that, I can go in and go, let's make that 115. Let's make it a little bit early. So this will change the start position, however, it won't affect where it is on the page. Now, if I want to see exactly how live playback is affecting all of my score, I can switch on the live playback velocities, and you can see that voice 2 parts are marked in green and voice 1 in blue. And if I want to change any of these, I can literally just click on them. If I zoom in a little closer and drag these up and down. So I can make a piece very quickly feel very human and very realistic sounding. Most of the time, I just let live playback get on and do its thing. The next feature we're going to look at in this section is live tempo. Now, live tempo effectively allows you to act as the conductor, so to have Sibelius follow your beat. Sadly, it won't follow you waving a baton around, but we can do the next best thing and have it respond to us tapping the tempo through a MIDI keyboard, through your QWERTY keyboard, or through a MIDI pedal. So what I've got here is a simple drum groove that goes on for about the equivalent of a page, 30 odd bars. And if I play it back, you'll hear that it's in constant tempo. There we go. Let's just take that back to the beginning. And you'll see here I have some options in live tempo. First of all, I can clear the live tempo, but I haven't added any yet. I can also add a tap point, but we'll come on to that in a second. And I can record live tempo. And I also have the record option in my transport bar over here. Now I tend to like to use the transport controls rather than the live tempo menu items, just because I can see what's going on a little bit easier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to calibrate our device. And Sibelius asks me what type of device I want to use for the live tempo input. So I've selected MIDI keyboard, and I'm going to start the calibration. Now you can use any note on your MIDI keyboard, but I'm going to choose to use C1. That's the C above middle C. So here we go, let's calibrate our keyboard. And obviously the aim is to stay as in time with the click as possible. Hit OK. So now what we can do is display our tap points. Now the tap points are going to be exactly that. They're points at which we tap in the tempo. So I'm now going to record in my live tempo part, and you'll see by the camera footage that as I slow down, there's a slight delay and then Sibelius starts to follow me. Anyone who's conducted a real orchestra will also know there's a slight delay there as well. But hopefully you'll see that the two tie up pretty well. As I get slower, Sibelius will get slower. As I get faster, Sibelius will get faster. So we're back to the beginning, and I'll hit record. And you'll see that because I'm choosing to display the live tempo data, and the display button is shown here, as I play back you can see how my tempo changes. Slightly below, slightly above starting point. At bar 6 we cross well below the starting tempo. By halfway through bar 8, we're back above. And nearly back to the tempo we started with. And you can see here, by clicking on my live tempo line, I can add a tap point. Now a tap point is a way of adding a point of key interest in the score, so Sibelius makes sure it puts some live tempo information on the score at that point. If I want to, I can add tap points on every beat, tap points at the start of every bar, tap points every half bar. It's a way of making sure that Sibelius has live tempo information at that point in the score. Generally with a drum part like this, it's just going to do a fairly reasonable job of following my tapping on the MIDI keyboard. But with some more complicated orchestral works, you may choose to put tap points in manually before you add the live tempo data. So in the live tempo options section, I can define the amount of counting that I need to give Sibelius. I can allow for tapping multiple beats, for example 1 in a bar. I can also smooth out or make more responsive the amount of data that Sibelius gets from the MIDI keyboard. So just to recap, in this tutorial we've looked at the Play tab, playback and playback devices, the mixer, live playback and live tempo. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.